In the glory.
For the first time in NFL history, the Super Bowl will be played in a snowbelt city. Pontiac, Michigan, near Detroit, is the site for Super Bowl XVI. Snow surround the Silverdome. Things are heating up inside for one of the most intriguing matchups ever in Super Bowl annals. They're calling it Sweet 16, the Cinderella Super Bowl, and with good reason. The two participants, the Cincinnati Bengals and San Francisco 49ers, were both long shots at the beginning of the season and are each appearing for their first ever Super Sunday. It's no fluke that they're here. Both teams had the best records in their respective conferences. There are some interesting side notes to the matchup as well. The Bengals field leader, quarterback Ken Anderson, studied his trade with 49er head coach Bill Walsh back when Walsh was an assistant in Cincinnati. Ken learned his lessons well, and in 1981 he was Pro Football's top-ranked passer and player of the year. Anderson has many fine targets to throw to, including rookie sensation Chris Collinsworth. On the 49ers side, the man who makes the offense go is a fellow who's become a household name. Joe Montana was the leading passer in the NFC, and a big reason for his success was the performance of his top target, wide receiver Dwight Clark. Both teams like to throw, yet both squads have aggressive defenses as well. What makes this matchup so appealing is that each team was slated for also-ran status, yet defied the odds. And here they are in quest of the World Championship. Neither team has ever achieved such an honor. But today, one of these Cinderella squads will go home as king of the pro football world. From the Silverdome, it's Super Bowl XVI. The San Francisco 49ers and the Cincinnati Bengals on the NFL Game of the Week. The worldwide audience that was tuned in for the game didn't have to wait long for sparks to fly. On the opening kickoff, 49ers returner Amos Lawrence, number 20, committed what looked to be a costly mistake. The Bengals recovered on the San Francisco 26-yard line. And almost instantly, Cincinnati quarterback Ken Anderson began to pick away at the 49ers' young defense. Two quick completions got Cincinnati to the 5-yard line. But then defensive end Jim Stuckey, number 79, barged in on Anderson. The sack forced a third down throwing situation, and Anderson hastily fired the ball into the waiting arms of 49er safety Dwight Hicks, number 22. Cincinnati had squandered a golden opportunity to score first, and now San Francisco Golden Boy Joe Montana took over. The 49ers moved downfield briskly and made it clear on this first drive that the Bengals had better be prepared for anything. Number 86 tight end Charlie Young hauled in the end of the double reverse to put San Francisco well into Bengal territory. The 49er fans, who had delighted in this play all season, enjoyed the added bonus of Young's acrobatic catch as well. The 49ers got some solid running to edge closer, and then Montana found wide receiver Freddie Solomon, number 88, for an important completion. From the 1, Montana went over the top, and San Francisco led 7-0. It had looked like disaster for San Francisco just minutes before, but now the Niners led. In nearly every Super Bowl played to date, the team that had scored first usually won. And now the Niner defense continued to do its part to make such a victory possible. Cincinnati was stymied for the rest of the first quarter, but early in the second period, Anderson started to connect with such receivers as Chris Collinsworth, number 80. Anderson also looked for big tight end Dan Ross, number 89, the leading Bengal receiver during the regular season. The combo very nearly pulled off one of the greatest catches in Super Bowl history. The officials, however, ruled that Ross trapped the ball, making the pass incomplete. But the Bengals were even more severely damaged soon after, when a successful pass play to Collinsworth suddenly became their second turnover of the game. Eric Wright stripped the ball from Collinsworth, and number 28, Lynn Thomas, recovered. The Bengals, the league leaders in fewest turnovers, had now twice surrendered the ball in the shadows of the 49er end zone. The 49ers took over deep in their own territory, but then put together a 92-yard march that was nearly flawless in its execution. Number 49, running back Earl Cooper, provided the ground power, and Joe Montana used his quick feet to avoid the rush. As usual, the man who Joe looked for in precarious situations was there. Number 87, Dwight Clark. From the Bengal 11, Montana used a play-action fake that froze the linebackers, and his on-target toss gave Cooper a clear path to the end zone. San Francisco now led 14-0 thanks to a brilliant length of the field drive that was climaxed by Cooper's score. Cooper did not have the kind of year he had hoped for in the regular season, but in the playoffs, the second year back had come alive. The Bengals were in trouble. Down by 2 touchdowns, they were in danger of losing control of the game, and they knew they would have to bounce back offensively. Perhaps they were a bit too anxious to start, because on the following kickoff, Ray Wersching's squibber put the overeager Bengals even deeper in the hole. Cincinnati was badly bottled up and was soon forced to punt. Again, Montana took advantage of the situation, connecting on short but certain passes to Clark. Montana chewed up 4 minutes on the drive and soon was deep in Cincinnati territory. But this time, when the Niners got close, they were unable to strike gold. San Francisco salvaged matters when Ray Wersching drilled a field goal to make it 17-0. And then with just 15 seconds to go in the half, he squibbed another kickoff. Earlier, the Bengals had gotten into hot water in the same situation. Now the results would be even worse. San Francisco recovered with just 5 seconds to go in the half. Wersching was summoned again. His field goal, coming within 13 seconds of his previous kick, set a record for the 2 fastest scores in a Super Bowl game. It had been a dream half for the 49ers, a nightmare for the Bengals. 30 minutes still remained, but the San Francisco faithful had good reason to feel confident. Their team went to the locker room with the biggest halftime margin in Super Bowl history. While the 82,000 people on hand were being treated to the sights and sounds of the Up With People group, the Bengals were out of sight in their locker room, where the only sound was the firm voice of Forrest Gregg urging them on. When the second half whistle sounded, Anderson and the Bengals set their sight on their first score of this Super Bowl. A clutch third down catch by Steve Kreider, number 86, put Cincinnati in 49er territory. And then a little razzle-dazzle got them even deeper. When the referees whistled that Isaac Curtis was grabbed by his face mask, 11 more yards were tacked on, and by then Anderson could smell the end zone. Only Pete Johnson outrushed Kenny this season for the Bengal lead in that category, and Anderson's running ability was a key to getting them in this important game. His touchdown run was made a little easier when rookie Eric Wright, number 21, vacated the middle to cover Curtis, who exited the backfield, leaving Kenny running room up the gut. Anderson's 5-yard score narrowed the 49er lead to 20-7, but more importantly, it erased the goose egg that had plagued them throughout the first half. Those shining Bengal hopes were uplifted by their lightning second-half score. And now it was time for the defense, a unit that had not played that poorly in the first half, to really take charge if the Bengals were to get even closer. They would have to contain the elusive Montana and not allow the 49er attack to eat up precious time on the clock. They did precisely that. San Francisco failed to achieve a single first down in the third quarter, and Anderson continued to lead the Bengal comeback. Dan Ross advanced 15 yards, but keep your eyes on Ronnie Lott, number 42 of the 49ers, to see why the game was rather quickly erased. You'll see undoubtedly a Super Bowl record, the latest late hit in World Championship play. Steve Kreider's logic was fine, for if you keep super rookie Lott on his back, he can't hurt you. His timing, unfortunately, was a bit off. The Bengals, however, have a super rookie of their own in Chris Collinsworth, who led all first-year receivers in receptions this season. His timing was just fine, for his Bengals needed a big play right now, and he came through like a seasoned veteran. Collinsworth's nifty over-the-shoulder grab was good for 49 yards, and it would stand as the longest gain in Super Bowl 16. Another rookie, Eric Wright, was burned on the play, but later in the game he would more than make up for this momentary lapse. The Bengals were on a roll, and they knew it. Another quick score, and they'd be sitting pretty. What they did not know was that San Francisco was preparing to mount a mighty goal line stand. Big fullback Pete Johnson, number 46, found out fast. Twice Johnson was pounded inside the 49er 5. And when Anderson tried to pass around the determined San Francisco wall, a stone pillar named Dan Buns stood firm. Buns' quickness and strength buried Charles Alexander 4 inches away from the 49er goal line. Cincinnati had one more shot, and everybody under the dome knew who would be given the task of taking that ball across that white line. Pete Johnson is the Bengal cannon, and they fired him right at the heart of the 49er defense. If there was any doubt as to whether or not that cannonball found his target, the reaction of 49er defensive captain Archie Reese, number 78, quickly revealed that the 49ers, despite twice having only 10 men on the field during their gallant stand, had won the battle. The Bengals may have lost the battle, but the war was far from over, and early in the fourth quarter they moved downfield with the help of their leading receiver, Dan Ross. Ross's 71 receptions during the regular season set a club mark, and in this championship game, he would break yet another record. Ross's 11 Super Bowl catches erased George Sauer's record of 8 versus the Colts in Super Bowl III. And when Ross failed to get open, Anderson found himself in trouble. No one was near Anderson's desperation throw, and Archie Reese, who only moments ago had celebrated on his own goal line, felt a little differently at this juncture, insisting that intentional grounding should have been called by the officials. Fortunes sway quickly in Super Bowls, and 49er fortunes suddenly got worse. Dan Ross, who had ignited the drive, capped it off with a 4-yard touchdown reception. His route was made clear when Jack Reynolds, number 64, left the middle in order to cover Pete Johnson, who flared out into the flat, leaving Ross with only number 27, Carlton Williamson, to beat. Ross's grab made the score San Francisco 20, Cincinnati 14. The Bengals had scored twice, while San Francisco had failed to net even a single first down. A little less than 10 minutes remaining would decide the winner of Sweet 16. Plenty of time remained to complete the Bengal comeback. Once down by 20, they had cut that deficit to 6. And their improved defense, stacked full of number 1 draft picks who have come of age, dug in to stop Joe Montana. But quickly, number 16 proved that while quarterbacks aren't great all the time, they're always great when they have to be. A key 22-yard completion on 2nd and 15 netted a first down. And then Bill Ring and number 32, Ricky Patton, ate up yardage and the clock. Patton's 55 yards rushing made him this Super Bowl's top ground gainer and put Ray Wersching in range for his 3rd field goal of the game. Wersching boomed it from 40 yards out, and trailing by 9 with but 5 minutes remaining, Anderson tried to get 7 on one big play. Eric Wright, who had been burnt by number 80 Chris Collinsworth for the game's biggest gainer, suddenly atoned for his mistake by picking off Anderson's attempt and returning it 25 yards to the Bengal 22. His attempted lateral was recovered by San Francisco, and the key interception was simply a classic case of rookie Wright out-positioning rookie Collinsworth for a pass that veteran Anderson should never have thrown. As they had all day, San Francisco capitalized on the turnover and led 26-14 by virtue of Ray Wersching's record-tying 4th field goal. Anderson quickly went to work for the AFC champions. Anderson would finish his first Super Bowl appearance by throwing for 300 yards. And on this desperation drive, he hit 6 straight to 4 different receivers. All of Anderson's passes were completed inbounds, so as the Bengals rolled, so did the clock. Dan Ross's second touchdown catch narrowed the score to San Francisco 26, Cincinnati 21. The Bengals needed a touchdown, and their only hope would be a miraculous recovery of an onside kick with but 14 seconds remaining in Super Bowl 16. Sure-handed Dwight Clark put to an end all hopes of a Bengal miracle and concluded a truly Cinderella season for the youngsters of San Francisco and their coach of the year, Bill Walsh, whose final task of the season would be to answer a congratulatory call from Ronald Reagan. Perhaps 49er defensive end Archie Reese summed up the great victory best when he said, "No one thought we were for real. We had the personnel, we had the coaches, and we came from a 6-10 team last year, and now we're world champions. We wanted it bad." Ken Anderson proudly exited with his son, and later when his boy grows up, he can tell him that his Bengals had a hell of a year too. But unfortunately, there's only room in the world for one Cinderella. Final score, San Francisco 26, Cincinnati 21. The San Francisco 49ers, world champions